Doctors change lives every day, but what happens when life changes yours? A single injury, a sudden illness. Your career, your income, your future can shift in an instant. The best physicians don't just plan for success, they protect it. At Set for Life Insurance, they believe financial security isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. True own occupation disability insurance ensures that no matter what happens, your future stays in your hands. Because protecting your income means protecting everything you've built. Visit drpodcastnetwork.co/set4life today. Secure your future before life makes the choice for you. We are no longer physicians, we're providers.
Ask your baby's permission.
Gay people, you have become a product. Should auto insurance cover STD? Are you freaking kidding me? So you demean us. You don't get a parade for a sexual preference. To not hurt the feelings of somebody with a fraction of my training. That a beaver's ass presented this to the world. It's a natural flavor. But you are literally an ice cube in a martini shaker. Look at us. I have my party shirt on. I just got a haircut. And it's very high and tight. It's kind of more like a cranial circumcision.
Cranial circumcision.
I am going for a cranial circumcision.
That's a whole new way to label your haircut.
That's
I love
what
it.
I'm going to call that.
We are colorful today. Look at us.
Our new we put the background up there. I thought it was a little bit, whatever, flamboyant, shall we say. But it actually looks pretty good.
Well, welcome to, are we calling this DOCTALES?
This is DOCTALES with Cocktails, even though it's a little early in the afternoon, but we got stuff to do tonight. So
looks like you got your appropriate shirt on then.
I do. The Lost City, which is interesting because the car on here, right there. See the car?
Yes.
My father, no, it is not. It is an Oldsmobile 98, and my dad had several of those. He had that exact car, but a different color.
With the same girl sitting on it in the...
Hi, Mom. No, he had 4 doors, not 2 doors. And he did not have the same girl. But anyways, welcome to DOCTALES with Cocktails. I did a solo last week, and I got positive feedback, actually.
Well, then I'm just ready to exit stage left.
No, you're not. Because I don't like doing it by myself. And I need some
Abbott and Costello.
Well, that, but I also find that in the atomic energy that is my personality, I need cooling rods so I don't melt down.
All right, I'll try to be that for you.
So this afternoon, whatever it is, today's episode I call Dancing with Myself. Remember that song?
Yes, I
Dancing with myself.
Who sang that song?
And the world is damn, but I could date it. Look it up. Look it up. Dancing with myself. Anyways, so the reason I call it that is we're going to go through a few stories, 5 or 6 stories of doctors that experimented on themselves. And some of them are absolutely unbelievable.
Well, all in the name of science, right? I should say.
I think
you remember that we had one of those anesthesiologists where we did our training that loved to do that.
Give himself peripheral blocks.
I'll share some of that later. But what have you got for us in the lineup?
Okay, we have...
Is this all in the name of science, or is this just wacky stuff gone bad? Or is this like, remember the TV show?
Dancing with Myself, of course, it was Billy Idol.
Right.
How completely stupid can I be?
I thought it was some other British...
he is British.
Some other British band, I was going to say.
In the midnight hour.
I knew it wasn't Talking Heads. Anyway, back to the physicians experimenting on themselves, which reminds me of that TV show, The Nick, which is a very good...
that was great.
Series. It's like a couple, 2 years. Anyway,
2 years. That was
he experimented on himself right to the very end.
Clive Owen. Well, it's interesting though. It's interesting because what they did in that show, which is a great show if you go back and watch it, they took a lot of actual historical things that happened and they wove them into the tapestry of the fiction of the show. So, like the fever closets they'd put people in, the one where they pulled the woman's teeth because she was crazy and they thought that the teeth were infecting her brain. And it was, I couldn't find a historical reference to pulling all your teeth, but I could find references to like the fever closets. And then of course the copious amounts of opium that he used, where he would go to the opium dens and yes, that.
Yeah, he was just treating his own addiction.
Well, that was Freud. That was Freud. Freud was a coke freak and pretty clearly addicted to cocaine.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah, you read some of his letters.
And then you wonder why he came up with all that stuff.
Well, exactly. There's letters that he has where he's like writing his girlfriend and he's like, I can't wait till you get here till you actually taste what it's like to be taken by a man who has the surge of cocaine running through his veins.
Wow.
Yes.
That's someone I want analyzing me on the couch.
No. His id was going completely apeshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His id.
His id.
His idiot.
He was very idded out.
Interesting.
Okay, so I've kind of collated a few of these. Some of them are actually really good. One guy experimented on himself, and because of the self-experiment, he won the Nobel Prize.
Well, let's hear it.
So do you want to start with that guy?
Yeah.
Let's start with that guy. That guy's name is, I need to find him here.
You can't find your notes.
Well, I got my notes, but it's in a weird order, and some of the stuff is really stupid that they have in there.
Well, if you can't figure it out, just pick anyone.
My personal favorite, I think my personal favorite is Albert Hofmann.
Okay. What did Albert Hofmann do?
So Albert Hofmann was a Swiss chemist, and he worked for Sanofi. I think it was Sanofi. Or a company that became Sanofi. And he was researching the fungus ergot. And what did he discover by researching ergot?
His blood vessels constricted?
No, he was not treating migraine. He discovered.
I didn't say that. I just said his blood vessels constricted.
No, that's not what happened. His mind was blown.
Literally?
Yes.
He gave himself a stroke?
Nope. Because the fungus ergot, there is a substance you pull out of it called lysergic acid. His initial tests were inconclusive, but Hofmann decided to retest a synthesized version of the acid. In April 1943, he ingested 25 milligrams of a substance he called LSD 25. And then he went on a bike ride home, and he tripped absolute freaking balls all the way home, to the point where this became so famous that LSD enthusiasts to this very day call April 19th Bicycle Day.
No way.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
April 19th. So there's 420.
And there's 419.
Wow.
419.
I thought you were going to say they called it mushroom. No, not mushroom. What am I thinking? Fungus Day or Hoffman Day? No, Bicycle Day is perfect.
Hofmann would continue to experiment with LSD until his death at 102 years old.
No.
The secret biohack is acid.
There you go. What extended?
We're not giving medical advice.
What extended your life? Well,
I tripped balls a lot. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Okay, this next guy, Stubbins Firth. Stubbins Firth. Okay. This guy wins the You Are a Freaking Weirdo prize. What did Stubbins Firth do?
Well, with a name like that,
yeah,
he got a bad start.
If Stubbins was alive now,
is he a physician?
He would be living in his parents' basement playing Call of Duty at the age of 50.
Was this a physician?
I believe so. After witnessing a devastating yellow fever epidemic in 1793, Stubbins Firth hypothesized the viral hemorrhagic disease was not contagious. Okay. So yellow fever, not contagious. To prove his thesis, he tested the disease's characteristic black vomit because it's hemorrhagic. So you get black vomit because you leak blood into your upper intestinal system in your stomach and you throw up black vomit. But he tested the black vomit on himself. This included, but certainly was not limited to, pouring vomit into his open cuts or onto his eyeballs, drinking infected black vomit by the glassful.
Oh. It's making you gag.
No, it is making me gag. And stewing up to his waist in a veritable sauna o vomit.
What?
Yep. He would later rub blood and urine on his body as well, but ultimately avoided infection. So, did he get a lot of dates? What did you do today, Stubbins? I just went into, the cold plunging is all the rage. I'm doing black vomit plunges now.
Wow. That is just insane. All in the name of experimenting. I don't know.
Yep.
It kind of reminds me of those people that collect their pee and drink it because it's supposed to be healing, you know? Did you see that was on a TV show?
No, to quote Dr. Evil, I say no.
Ew.
In his 1904 book, A Treatise on Malignant Fever, with an attempt to prove its non-contagious nature. What a catchy title. He declared yellow fever is non-contagious. And that's true, but it is contagious. But it's not contagious from black vomit.
Right.
That's the thing. He only proved that it was not contagious from black vomit. He didn't prove that it was not contagious. It's contagious if you get bitten by a mosquito that's infected with yellow fever.
So did he go in a pond of mosquitoes too?
No, because I think this was in the UK. So old Stubbins.
All that black vomit, you got to think with all that acid and bile in there, it's going to neutralize that virus. Anyway.
Okay.
Wow. Quite the story. I don't think I'll be doing anything quite like that. Man, our kids would throw up. It wasn't even black vomit, and you would run at the sign of it. So I can't even imagine
correct.
You doing anything close to that.
This guy shows up in a lot of research. Werner Forssmann, or Forssmann, who was a physician, and he invented cardiac catheterization by catheterizing his own heart.
Wow.
Yeah, in 1929, he took a ureteral catheter, so like a tiny urethra catheter, and put it into his elbow, feeding it through a vein to his heart. He used a mirror as his assistant, since he had restrained his nurse to the operating table.
What?
I think because she was trying to make him not stop that. Either that, or he was doing some other experiments that he did not publish.
He was hanging out with Freud.
Yes. He then took an X-ray of his chest to determine that the catheter had indeed made it to the right atrium.
Wow.
He was met with condemnation by medical ethicists.
Wait, stop. So while he's got the catheter in the right atrium, he manages to
give himself an X-ray.
Get the X-ray machine going and take his own picture.
Correct.
Wow.
So,
and it's not like the old days, people, where you had like a little remote control. You could just stand there and push the button.
So it's interesting. So he got condemned, and they're like, "You're a weirdo," and because that was 1929. This rejection led him to abandon cardiology for urology.
Oh, and then what did he catheterize then?
But later, he got a Nobel Prize in 1956.
For what?
I think for cardiac catheterization.
Wow. Huh. Imagine that.
Yes. I, Werner Forssmann, am going to go from hearts to dicks. Thank you.
If it's got a orifice, I guess you can catheterize
it.
Okay,
this guy. It's interesting though, because the guys that experiment on themselves, they there's kind of this personality of kind of crazy psycho pioneer vibe that often is often rewarded in society, but often you're just a weirdo. At the turn of the 20th century, August Beer developed a method for spinal anesthesia. It involved injecting cocaine, favorite drug of the turn of the century, into the cerebrospinal fluid. To test its effectiveness, Beer enlisted himself. During the experiment, a mix-up left Beer with a hole in his spine leaking cerebrospinal fluid. Actually, common complication of a spinal anesthesia.
And that does not feel good.
Because May had that.
It gives you a giant headache.
Roaring headache. Beer's assistant stepped in to take his place in the study once the assistant was properly numb. And to quote David Gilmour, comfortably numb. Beer kicked his shins, bludgeoned and burned him, plucked out his pubic hairs, and mashed his genitals.
Oh my.
The assistant felt nothing. See what I'm saying? Weirdo. A success the two celebrated by drinking excessively that evening. But how can you not? Your name's Beer.
I'm thinking, if I was the assistant, I would have beat the hell out of him for mashing my genitals.
Okay, I'm burning you now. Do you feel it? No. Okay, I'm kicking you in the balls. Do you feel... No. America spends more on healthcare than any other country, yet we rank 48th in life expectancy. We spend trillions, but 200,000 insured people still declare medical bankruptcy every year. Clearly, the system is broken. But what if there was a way to take back control, to break free from inflated costs and red tape? That's exactly why Crowd Health was created, a smarter, more transparent way to pay for healthcare. No middleman, no bureaucracy. Just a community of people helping each other when it matters most. Join the revolution. Go to joincrowdhealth.com and use promo code BSFREE for a discount on your first 3 months. Because your health should be in your hands, not theirs.
So I have to tag on to that story about the cerebral spinal fluid tap leak story, because you brought that up. And we're talking about people that experiment on themselves and weird stuff. So when I was in the hospital having my first ACL repair, and yes, I said in hospital because they kept me there for a week. That was
for an ACL repair.
Yes.
Like, what is this, 1876?
Close.
1992.
So I had a spinal anesthetic because I did not want to be put under. And by the time they were done and they got me back to the room, I got the unwanted side effect, unfortunately, of a spinal leak. So that means when I would sit up, I'd get a headache because the fluid would leak through the space. Just imagine you get poked to have a blood draw and you're still bleeding from the vein. Basically, the cerebral spinal fluid just is leaking through that where they poke the hole with the needle. And it drops the pressure when you sit up and you get a headache. So you lay down, headache goes away because the pressure in your spine up to your brain equalizes. So I'm lying there and it's not getting better after a day. So the solution is to do what they call a blood patch. So blood clots, they take blood from somewhere, they inject it into that space and hope that it clots around the hole. And then with time, the little hole heals itself as things knit back together. Okay, so I got the physician, his name's escaping me for a second, doesn't really matter. The anesthesiologist that was going to come and do the blood patch repair wasn't the one that did my anesthesia for surgery, but he was on call that day and he had his little entourage of residents and med students. And he's like, okay, this is a great teaching case and let's draw some blood and inject it. Well, lo and behold, I don't know, must have been dehydrated, in shock. I don't know. I'm kidding. They couldn't get blood from my forearms, couldn't get blood from common veins. I think because probably all the med students were experimenting. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. So they're looking for the next great available vein. And this anesthesiologist decides, since he loves to experiment on his own self, well, why don't we just try to teach you guys where the internal jugular is? Sorry, the external jugular vein, and just draw blood from there.
You did not consent.
And I'm like, what the hell?
No.
There's a whole lot of other veins in my body that you could draw from. No experiment needed. He's like, oh, but look, this is so prominent. This is so perfect. Let's just go right there. And they can just, I'm like, hell no. Hell to the no. they managed to find this nice big juicy one on the top of my foot. Someone blew the valve in there, and to this day I still have swelling on my foot because of that stupid blood patch. Anyway,
Stupid blood patch. Yes.
There you go.
Do you know what happened? That anesthesiologist.
But the headache went away. The blood patch worked. The headache went away.
He would
I've been left with a swollen foot in the heat.
He would do peripheral blocks on himself. He intubated himself with a mirror, which is amazing. And then eventually, he did intubate himself with the mirror. And he would do things like a femoral nerve block, put catheters in his groin. I don't know what else, but those were the known things. And then eventually he killed himself. He did? Mm-hmm. Sadly. By accident? Maybe he was like experimenting. I would have to call one of my very good friends that was in that department to get the scoop, but it's dark, very dark. All right, so what else you got? This guy, David Pritchard, was an immunologist, and he wanted to test his findings that certain parasites can improve the immune system's defense against allergies. Here we go with the parasites. And possibly more serious autoimmune illnesses. Circumventing the inevitable years of red tape, Pritchard used himself as the first test subject, injecting 50 hookworms under his skin. Ugh. He was able to deduce that only 10 hookworms were necessary for future test subjects. Sick. Yes. Wait, doesn't tell us how he got the hookworm. How he took him out. What happened? Nothing. I don't know. So maybe that's a good allergy treatment. I'm going to do that. I'm going to tell patients that come in whose allergies are bad, because this is, bad allergy season because we haven't had much rain. Just get hookworms. Oh yeah, sure. Infect yourself with hookworms. Sure. This guy, the next guy, is my second favorite. Clearly my second favorite. Air Force officer and surgeon. I remember watching these videos in high school. John Paul Stapp. I wonder if he's related to Scott Stapp, the singer for Creed. Maybe it's Scott Stapp's grandpa. Can you imagine? What he did is he earned his nickname, the fastest man on earth. In his research, Stapp repeatedly strapped himself into a rocket sled, nicknamed the Gee Whiz, and was propelled forward at speeds close to that of sound. He would then lock up the brakes to determine the human body's ability to withstand abrupt deceleration. Many broken bones and temporarily detached retinae later. Oh. Stapp determined the human body can withstand 45 Gs of forward motion with an adequate harness. That's not exactly correct. Because when they look at the G meters, like when Kyle Busch hit the wall at Daytona and broke his feet and then came back and won the championship that year, he hit over 100 Gs. The difference is they're not sustained. They're 100 Gs over a fraction of a second, like a peak G load. Whereas Stapp, like when you watch it, the way they lock the brakes up is they go into water. Like they basically shoot this thing into like this little miniature pond. And so it goes from 600 miles an hour to zero in whatever. So he's sustaining a 45 G load over like seconds and seconds, like a super long time, relatively speaking. But he did it with arms wide open. I'm assuming that's a Creed song. Yes. For those of you wondering what I'm doing an experiment, and I hope I don't wind up 6 feet under. This guy was not these are just experiments on with. He was a doctor. An Air Force surgeon. Oh, he's an Air Force surgeon. Because this was back in the 50s, and they had to figure out a lot of this was the space program, right? So it started in the 50s, right? Like right after World War II, because they had to go, okay, what happens like if we launch the rocket and it, we have to. The thing goes to crap and we have to shoot the capsule off the top. Because when they have that ejection capsule thing, it's super high G load, right? Like it's, and like when Kittinger did the highest skydive out of a hot air balloon back in, what was that, 57 or 58? It was all space program stuff. It's like, if these guys get stuck at 110,000 feet and everything goes to shit and they're still in the atmosphere, can they jump out? Like, can you eject them and have them survive? And Joe Kittinger's like, I'll pick me. And they put like an old school 1950s parachute on him and they threw him out of the thing.
Wow.
And he jumped out of the balloon. And I have the I think I still have that National Geographic, actually, where they catalog all the pictures. I mean, it's fascinating. And then he lands in the desert, right? Joe lands in the desert and they rush up to him and they're like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yes." And then they give him a smoke.
Of course.
Yeah, when Felix Baumgartner did his jump back in, what was that, 2011 or whatever, Joe was still alive and actually was they brought him in as a consultant because Felix was the broke his record. But Felix did it with no drogue chute. He literally did a free fall from like 125,000 feet.
Okay. And to a lot of people, they go, huh, what? That means nothing.
So what happens is this. The air is so light. Like normally when we skydive from 13,000 feet. Okay. So there's still a lot of air. So when you stand outside of the airplane's going 90 miles an hour. You're standing outside the plane. You get your group. You jump out. You can fly. Like legitimately, you can drive yourself around the sky because you're already going 90 miles an hour forward. And then you start falling down and you have all this air pressure against you. So you can, the way you move your arms and legs, you can legitimately fly. Well, when you get into air that thin, nothing happens. Like there's no control surface, right? And so when Joe did it, he had a drogue chute. So he had a means like a little parachute that immediately deployed. So it would hold him in position. So the drogue is above him and it's holding him so he can't spin. Basically, it's like holding. When Felix did it, and this is what they were really scared about when Felix did it, was they were concerned that he would go into a flat spin and he would be going because he broke the speed of sound with his body.
Wow.
And so they're like, he's going to go so fast. If he starts to spin, he won't be able to counter the spin with control surface, like with his arms and legs. And he'll just become a human centrifuge until his head explodes, basically. And which did not happen. And he, was able, it was pretty unstable, but he was able to stabilize himself enough because apparently when you're going 600 miles an hour, even in thin air, you do have some control surface.
Oh, imagine that.
And so then, and I mean, he rode that thing down. He opened high. I think he opened at like 10 grand. And he landed in the desert with a normal sport parachute. Wow. And a spacesuit. Like it was completely crazy. So yeah, this guy, not Scott Stapp. I'm sorry, John Paul Stapp, with arms wide open, pulled 45 sustained G's. Now I saw pictures of his face, just like a puffer fish, all petechiae, like all broken blood vessels, just like he got beat.
He pulled his retinas off.
Yes, just like he got beat with a bat after somebody gave him a spinal anesthetic, but they did not mash his balls. So that one is pretty crazy. Where's the other one? Oh yeah. Okay. So the guy that won the Nobel Prize, this one is actually very recent, and it's a mind blower because normally this would be frowned upon. So Barry Marshall is his name. He's an Australian guy. So the conventional wisdom was that excessive stomach acid caused ulcers. But of course, no one actually asked the question, where does the excessive stomach acid come? Because the idiotic answer most of the time in allopathic medicine is, you just make too much acid. Oh, really? Why? I don't know. Let's give you something that reduces the acid. Not like human beings haven't been making acid for the last 19 trillion years. Nothing will go wrong if you don't make something that you need, that you used to make. Like, the thinking's so completely insane. Again, it's back to the root cause. Well, okay, maybe it's excessive acid. What makes the excessive acid? So what Barry did is he hypothesized, based on a lot of research, that H. pylori caused stomach ulcers, right? And H. pylori commonly lives in a stomach lining, but I guess if you get an overgrowth, which makes sense, right? Because the microbiome is very dynamic. And they observed bacterial biopsy from patient's stomach lining in 1979, and they went like, maybe there's something different about this. Well, no one would take him seriously. So what he did, after years of trying to persuade skeptics and with no suitable animal models to work with, Marshall was driven to dig deeper. He took bacteria samples from a sick patient and drank it in a brew. He's Australian, so it tasted like Foster's. Afterwards, Marshall became sick. Well, no shit. With bloating, decreased appetite, and eventually vomiting. So he thought, which is fascinating, this part is really interesting. He thought that if you get infected with H. pylori, it's going to take like weeks or months or whatever, or years perhaps, to develop an ulcer. No. It took like, it's like 1 or 2 weeks. And they, endoscopy confirmed he did indeed have gastritis, and antibiotic treatment proved an effective cure.
Wow.
So he confirmed the connection between H. pylori. So then people took him seriously. And then fast forward 9 years to 2005, him and his assistant Warren won the Nobel Prize in Physiology for their groundbreaking discovery.
But it didn't get a lot of traction until much later, if you think about it.
Well, it didn't get traction until after they won the Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
But we were treating H. pylori. That's. I'm trying to think of when we first started. I mean, then it became completely stupid, right? So like people come in with a tummy ache, like non-ulcer dyspepsia,
right. Everybody's...
and then we had all of these, physicians and providers and whatever. Everything was H. pylori. Everything was then H. pylori, and I was like, no, it's not.
Right.
It's not. Like if you have a hiatal hernia, like you have an actual mechanical problem, you're going to have heartburn. It has nothing to do with bacteria. It has to do with the fact that you're fat and you have a mechanical defect.
Right. It was the thing that was in vogue, and we were testing everybody for it.
Yeah, and it's like if you have a true ulcer, that's different. But the antibiotic regimen that you have to take is obscene.
It is.
It's very difficult to treat. It's tons of antibiotics. It's tons and tons of Pepto-Bismol, believe it or not, and it's
acid.
And then it's quite difficult. You have to use either a stool or a breath test to prove that you actually cured it, because you can't use the antibody test because you're going to have antibodies for potentially forever because you already had the bug. So it's really it's arduous. But if you have a duodenal ulcer, like something that can kill you, yes, take the antibiotics. But if you have non-ulcer dyspepsia, like an upset tummy, do you want to be taking an absolute crap load of antibiotics for the next 2 weeks? Of course not. That's ridiculous. So once again, allopathic medicine for the not win. This guy, the last story, this guy wins the I'm really weird, the weirdo prize. This comes in second to the guy that had the vomit sauna.
Oh, okay. Second.
I
think that.
And this is an incredibly well-written article from, I don't know where, Worms and Bugs blog. So good job, Worms and Bugs blog.
Here we go.
Dr. Robert Lopez of Westport, New York, intentionally infested himself with ear mites from infected animals. We got a kitten from a cattery once, and he was a Bengal, and these cats are part wild. They're beautiful. Those are one of the most beautiful animals we've ever owned. And he had, the hand is fine. Don't stop the hand. It's giant though. Look at that. It's dysmorphically huge. So the cat, we took him to the vet, and make sure everything was good. And
no, I think we could tell before we took him to the vet.
He's always scratching.
That he was scratching at his ears and shaking his
head.
So
the vet pulls out.
And this crap was flying all over the place.
Pulls out this goopy crap out of his ears.
It was black.
And then puts it onto the microscope, and we look at it, and it's just alive with these ear mites. Like it's just
crawling.
It's just.
Yeah, you could see
make your skin crawl.
The microscope.
It was gross. So Dr. Robert Lopez of Westport, New York, intentionally infested himself with ear mites from infected animals and described the outcome in a 1993 edition of the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association. First, he took a sample from the ear of a cat with ear mites and placed it in his own ear.
Oh.
He described the scratching sounds and movement that he could feel as the mites explored his ear canal. Severe itching developed to the point where, quote, sleep was impossible. The intensity of the itching and mite movement decreased over time, and the infection resolved by itself within a month.
No way. He did that for.
Oh, no. It gets way better.
I'm speechless.
Dr. Lopez wanted to confirm his findings. So a few weeks later, he infected himself again with mites from another cat. The same type of disease developed, although it was less severe and only lasted 2 weeks. Know what he did next?
A third time to see if it'd be less duration.
Wanted to see if the reduction in severity might indicate development of immunity. So he infected himself a third time with the outcome being milder disease. This suggested to him that immunity to the mites might develop, something that fits with the fact that ear mite infestations are more common in young animals. There was another article where I think they quoted part of this actual journal article, and he was talking about sleeping, and then he could feel them walking across his face.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh.
Because they didn't like the human ear. So they'd come out of his ear and walk across his face.
Go up his nose, look for another hole. Wow,
Yes.
that is so sick.
Yes, and then what he did is he did a spinal anesthetic and pulled out all his pubic hair. No, that's not true. I made that part up. It's like you can't.
Good Lord.
Like you can't even make this up.
Oh my gosh.
Like how horrified would you be the first time? Like the very first time you did that, and you're like, "This is so itchy. Like I'm an idiot. I'm so stupid. I don't even want to tell like my wife or colleagues. This guy probably didn't have a wife. I'm saying, but
taking a shot of whiskey and dumping it in my ear to try to drown the damn thing.
Exactly. Like anything, just make it stop because sleep is impossible.
A month?
Because I have bugs in my ears for a month. But no, let's do it a second time. Let's do it a third time. Like, come on, man. You know this guy has a closet in his room with a whole bunch of chains and gags and stuff. Like that's just psycho S&M something or other. Wow. To do that.
I've been like without sleep from what I'm going through in this phase of my life, and it is like hellish. I can't imagine self-inducing that. Wow.
Well, that's what I'm going to do.
Huh.
Look, I'm sorry.
If anybody's got any tips on sleep, just send them my way. Because I'm experimenting with everything that there is to.
Well, maybe you just need ear mites.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Ear mites. Or according to our friends from the turn of the last century, from the 19th century to the 20th century, tremendous amounts of cocaine.
I'd rather take that than the ear mites.
I like Hofmann, though. Like Hofmann, he's like, what is this stuff? What does it do? Like it could have like given him fungating gas cancer. It could have done lots of things. But it was LSD. And he's like, this is really awesome. There's a great book. So there's this guy. I really want to have him on the show. He wrote 2 books. One is called Blitzed, which is about drug abuse during the Third Reich and how Hitler was like completely blitzed out on morphine and cocaine and whatnot and meth.
Yeah,
tons of meth. And then he wrote another one called Tripped, and it's all about the history of. I believe LSD. It was Sandoz, the company that invented LSD, and then how it became illegal in the United States, and a lot of it became illegal because the CIA really just wanted to use it to experiment on people.
Of course.
So, like it's a really good book. His name is. Let me look him up because he's really. Give him the credit here.
Fascinating stuff. I'm trying to think to any other
Norman Ohler. Yeah.
Any other physicians' cases I know of that we knew personally of people experimenting on themselves off the top of my head.
The Trip book is called. What is it? It's Tripped: Nazi Germany, the CIA, and the Dawn of LSD.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean I read it. I think I read it in like 4 days. I mean, I couldn't put it down. It reads like a novel. It's like, holy shit. Like this guy legitimately goes, like recently, he goes to, I think it was actually the author. He was trying to figure all this out. So he goes to the Sandoz labs or whatever, and they have this massive archive room. And he's like reading all the original research. He went back and started to go through the original research of how they produced LSD.
Huh.
And then how like ergot, they had all these spin-off chemicals like migraine treatments and stuff, and then how they'd have these massive farms to grow wheat just so the wheat could get the fungus on it, so they could harvest the fungus as the base molecule to build the drugs.
Really?
Like they have massive wheat fields, and they weren't making grain; they were making fungus. Yeah, and it was just, this is just crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna check out our page and see if anybody. It looks like we've got some viewers making some comments. So I'm doing that while you're researching something else.
Yeah, that's about all I got.
That's about all you got?
That's about all I got. Oh, Norman Ohler. Oh yeah, he's good. He was on Rogan. Rogan got him on after this because Rogan is so much into psychedelics, like so interested in that. So he had Norman on to go through the whole history. But I had already read. I actually, when Blitzed was written, I had to wait 7 or 8 months to get it because it had to be translated to English from German. That's how on top of things I was. Great book though. Really, really, really amazing. Like, and how Hitler had this one doctor who was a complete crank and would just
there was a lot of complete cranks.
Would do whatever he wanted, injected him multiple times a day with morphine. And then, he had his Pervitin, which was meth, because a German drug company came up with that. Norman thinks, and I agree with him, he thinks that the German army would not have been able to invade France without meth because they came over the mountains, this northern passage or whatever it was, like through the mountains and into France. And it was 36. They did 36-hour shifts without sleeping.
Whoa.
So how they did that, and they're stuck in tanks and whatnot, and how they did that was meth. And it worked amazing.
They didn't have Red Bull back then.
No. Meth gives you wings, apparently. Pervitin gives you wings. Well, and, Red Bull came from an Austrian guy, right? So it was super, super fascinating because what ended up happening is it worked amazing. They're like, this is the Uber soldier drug. Like, you give this to soldiers and they're like, they don't get bored and they're super aggressive and they can sit and drive a tank forever because they're having a good time and they don't get drunk. Like, this is great until you've dosed them for the last 2 years and now they're all psychotic.
Yeah. Well, they're kind of psychotic anyway.
Which is like really bad when you're flying an ME 109 and you're like, you're hallucinating whatever. Like it was just, yeah. I mean, what could possibly go wrong when you dosed an entire military with meth? They did, but Pervitin was such a big deal. They were giving it to mothers. It's like, you're going to be a better mother if you're blitzed out on meth. You can have more, Aryan children, and you can take care of your house better, and you can have energy for your husband who's, fighting the Slavic subhumans on the Eastern Front.
Really?
Yes. No, it was absolutely pervasive. What did they say? The military ordered 100, I think it was 100 million doses of meth for the invasion of France.
Wow.
An army marches on their stomach. No, they march with meth.
Nuts. Huh.
Yeah, no, it was.
And, all the other experimenting that they did on people in camps.
Yeah, and most of that was just cruel and torturous,
yes.
and never produced anything.
Correct.
It's not like, they used to have these stupid people say, all the advances from Nazi research. Yeah, like none. How about that? Okay, like zero.
Yeah.
But I mean, but the thing is, like, we use stimulants in the Air Force uses stimulants all the time.
Got to stay awake when you're flying that fighter jet for
18 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk to guys and you do a sort like the guys that fly the B-2 bomber, the stealth bomber. The stealth bomber is not allowed to land anywhere other than the United States. So its base is the B-2 base is in Missouri. So that
out and back is a lot of hours.
Right. So it's in air refueling. So when they bombed Baghdad back in 1991, they flew it from Missouri with two guys. they deliver their bombs. They start flying back. It's a bunch of in-air refueling, and it's like freaking popping the Ritalins until you get back.
I wonder what they give them to go to sleep. When they get back, I could use some of that. Just saying.
Well, it's the Air Force. They use Jeremiah weed.
Yeah, I know.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
Jeremiah weed. That's what they use.
Well, this has been fun, exciting, and kind of gross at the same time.
Well, that's like our relationship.
Well, cheers to that. Any special cocktail of the day?
Nah, I'm drinking really cheap vodka with a little bit of lemonade. I've got to stay sharp because I got to stay up and watch hockey tonight because the Lightning are playing.
Well, that's a nice summer refreshing beverage, vodka and lemonade.
It is. It's absolutely. What's that? If life gives you lemons, find the person that makes the vodka. Isn't that what they say?
I think so. I think something like that. All right. Let's wrap this up.
What's on the show this week? Coming up is the brilliant, innovative Andy Schoonover from Crowd Health. Figure out how to own your healthcare expenses, save buttloads of money with crowdsourcing medical bills. I think that's a great idea. We really like Andy. He is one of our sponsors, and we liked him way before he gave us money.
Yeah, it's such an innovative concept that you can. It sounds too good to be true. But if you go back and listen to the first interview with him, which is episode 327, he talks in detail about how the program works, how it actually is cheaper than what you're paying for in your employer-owned healthcare system program. Costs you a lot less money, even in the private market, and even with the whatever. I'm saying physician-owned, even with the employer-owned stuff. When you think about your deductible, what you're putting into it, I mean, it's like thousands.
What did we spend last year? 20 grand?
Yeah.
Like with insurance, we spent 20 grand. Yeah. And you didn't have any, like nobody had surgery, nothing.
Nope. So if you have a grossly high deductible health plan, you're paying all this money, you're doing, check out Crowd Health, because the entry costs will blow your mind, and you do the math, and
you get a deep discount if you enter BS free.
That's right.
At checkout. Yeah. So it really is innovative. We don't need to save healthcare. We need to burn it down and rebuild it. That's the only way it's going to work.
And
we need a full frame off restoration.
Yes.
As we would say in the car hobby.
And the cool thing about it is you still get access to your physicians, even some of the actually more top-notch physicians, because they have access to all of them across all of the states. You can find you the best, the cream of the crop, at the lowest prices, because...
Well, they're building a network of doctors that want to get paid by cash and give people a good deal.
That's right.
So that's the brilliant part.
Totally amazing.
It's not just crowdsourcing the expenses. It's like, how do we get the expenses as low as possible and then crowdsource it at the same time? I mean, it's great. We love these guys. Andy is an amazing man. Listen to that. You will enjoy it for sure. We sure enjoyed talking to him. One of our listeners wrote about the Navy. So I got to tell you this story.
Yes. Deb wrote up, she had a brother that was in the Navy for 22 years. And he told stories about phentermine, the speed, the upper stimulant.
Oh, yeah. So there is a group of veterans, and where I used to work, there is a guy that is, I think he's the head of the National Atomic Veterans Association. Okay. So these are the guys that, were in the military, the Navy or the Army that, did the nuclear tests. So they'd blow stuff up, and then they'd send these guys in there to see what got blown up, and then they'd get radiation sickness and get leukemia 25 years later and all this kind of business. So this guy was in the Navy, which was way better. He didn't want to be in the Army. He didn't want to be ground-based testing. And he said, okay, we're gonna blow up a hydrogen bomb, and they're on like a destroyer or a battleship or something. And it's 50 miles away or 100 miles away or whatever it was. And they said, the blast is over there. Turn your back to the blast. So everyone turns their back to the blast. And they said, close your eyes and put your arm in front of your forearm in front of your eyes. And they're like, okay. So then, it counts down, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. But it's, 25 miles away or however far it was. And they close their eyes, they put their forearm in front of their eyes, and then they can see all the bones in their arm through their closed eyes because of the amount of X-ray and gamma ray radiation that was like 25 miles away. And then they're like, okay, the light from the blast is over. Get ready for the shock wave. And then the whole ship would be like, it would almost tip over, and then it would come back. Because this thing,
wow,
it's like,
gotta wonder what happened.
Yeah, this guy was elderly and he was still alive. But man, these guys, there was a whole bunch of them in the Army, like in Nevada. They would literally run out there. They'd see what blew up. They'd come back and they would just brush them off with brooms.
Ooh.
That was the radiation.
That was the decontamination.
That was the decontamination.
Just a little light dusting.
It's like, enjoy your multiple myeloma, bitch.
Get your Swiffer duster out.
It's just so crazy. Yep.
Huh. Well. All right, that was wonderful. Thanks for joining us, everybody that watched online. Remember to check out the podcast episode with Andy Schoonover and Crowd Health. And until next time, cheers. Stay BS free. We'll see y'all next time.